Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
The coconut milk is not off here.
Oh,
We
no.
are diving into The White Lotus. This is our season 3, episode 8 reaction and review. The finale has come and gone. Temperature check. How are you feeling after watching that 90 minutes of television?
It didn't need to be 90 minutes. I mean, I love The White Lotus. This season has been phenomenal. Great cast, great storytelling. It didn't need to be this long. It was a bit longer than it needed to be. They needed to wrap it up. It was okay.
I feel like in general, there are very few 90 minutes to 2 hour episodes that ever need to be that long. I always feel like some things can be condensed. Like, I will say, this is my second favorite finale of the 3 White Lotus finales that we've seen. I think the season 1 finale is brilliant and iconic and unexpected. Season 2, I already kind of forget a little bit about it. I feel like the end of it was a little bit predictable. I think there were things I really, really liked about this finale.
Yes.
There were some things I did not like about this finale. I'm just sort of mixing all of them together.
To be fair, there's some things that I don't like about this finale as well, but overall, I really like this finale. I like this finale the best.
I think that this is a very satisfying end for some people, but also intentionally unsatisfying for others. I think the reason why the season 1 finale still sticks out to me is because I didn't know enough about the beats that Mike White wanted to explore at that point. So some things probably took me a little bit more by surprise than they do here. Like, there are certainly some story elements in this finale that I did not see coming at all. There was another story element when it came to Piper that I felt like I saw just like strolling along the beach on Thailand like multiple episodes ago, because he is just so inherently cynical.
Yeah, there are a few things that I was kind of like, did we really need this? Like the huge reveal that Jim is actually Rick's father. And I'm saying huge reveal because we've all been sitting here since the beginning being like, that's probably where we're going with this. And sure enough, it is. So I was kind of like, that's not as satisfying. However, there were a lot of things that happened in this episode, like the 3 friends really coming together and having the deeper talks that they haven't really had. I really enjoyed that a lot. That was not where I thought that was going. I thought this friendship was going to just disintegrate because it just wasn't there at that point. But this trip really brought them together. There were a lot of things that I didn't see coming, and then there were some that I was like, oh, okay.
I think, we'll get a lot more into it. But yeah, I think that 3 friends storyline is a perfect example of how Mike White still has his fastball, where he can do something like that, where 1 episode ago, I would not have believed it for a second if that was the ending. I would have felt, okay, this is impossible that these 3 would ever leave on good terms. But he brought it around and sold it to me. But we'll get into so much more, including, I don't know, what season 4 could be after all this. But before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because I know the White Lotus is over for the season. We're leaving the resort, but it's already been renewed for another season. We'll be back for that. But also, just like you're going to continue watching HBO for The Last of Us, continue watching us for coverage of The Last of Us, because we are going to be here breaking that down with reviews, previews, theories. If you've liked the coverage that we've done for The White Lotus, we're rolling it back with The Last of Us, and we don't want you guys to miss any of that.
And if you're looking for another show that's kind of similar, 9 Perfect Strangers is coming back in May, and we're going to be covering that here at the channel as well. And also follow us over on our Patreon. It's a great way to help support Matt and I here at the channel to continue to be bringing you guys these videos. And over there, we are covering The Pit, which is airing on Max, and also Bosch Legacy, which is in its final season. So thank you so much to everyone who has joined.
Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate that.
$5 million. Who is taking that money? Last time we were like, who's taking 100,000 to keep that secret? Who in the comments is taking 5 million to keep that secret? I will keep 5 murders secret for that money.
Okay, I would take the money. I'm going to be honest, but I'm going to take everybody on my emotional journey through this storyline here for a moment, because when Zion and Belinda were having their whole strategy session before all this, and Zion was being like super gung ho about it, I was so annoyed by him. I just thought he was being way too naive, way too frustrating. It's just like, dude, this is not going to work out well for you, my guy. You're going to go up there. He's going to not give you what you want, and then both of you are going to end up being killed. And up until the very moment I saw Belinda's eyes go wide when she checked her bank account, I didn't think this was going to happen, just because I was thinking, okay, was I on here touting that Greg Gary didn't offer them enough in the last video? Yeah, sure. But
Yes.
I thought this was going to 500,000, maybe a million, because technically, she doesn't have any proof that he did what happened in Sicily. And I think he doesn't want to deal with the hassle, and that's why he wants to give the money. But $5 million, it's a lot of money, even for somebody as rich as him.
Yeah, I mean, he's changed his name out there. She knows his real name and who he is and where he is. And, if police are looking to question him and he's changed his name, he's
Yeah.
out here, no one knows who he is or where he is. But now Belinda does, even though she doesn't have enough information, she has enough information to make his life a little more difficult than what he would like it to be. So, am I surprised he gave her that much? Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a small amount for the amount that he's gotten. But at the same time, can he really be sure she's not going to say anything? The only way to be sure is to kill her. Are we going to see these two again together about the same situation? I think the answer is no. I feel like that whole scene where she was saying goodbye, to her man is just like, yeah, circumstances have changed. We're not going to be opening the spa together. I'm like, this is very reminiscent of what Tanya did to you when you thought that this was going to be happening. And Tanya was like, things have changed. I'm going to be moving on to the next thing. I'm like, how it has turned around.
I'm so sad for my guy, Mr. Hot Spa Dude. Like, I've been rooting for him this entire season. Don't worry, Hot Spa Dude. You will find someone else. You are a Hot Spa Dude. You're gonna be fine. But I will say, for everybody out there who is annoyed with Belinda that, oh, she's compromising her morals for money, like, this is the White Lotus. This is a very, very cynical show. And I think
Yes.
that somebody like Belinda, who has had to deal for presumably years upon years upon years with all these like really rich, selfish people coming and probably taking advantage of her in a lot of different ways, not just financially in the way in which that, Tanya made these promises and didn't
Yep.
live up to them, but everybody has always looked down on her. Even Greg Gary looked down on her at first, and only offering her $100,000, thinking that that was going to be some life-changing thing. Like, I'm not surprised at all that she's ending all of this being like, for the first time in my life, I'm rich. I have money. I don't know what I want to do with this money yet. And you know what? That's fine. You want to do you, Belinda? That's all right. I am not going to fault you for anything here.
I agree. You get your bag. Like, what were the other options? You're not going to take the
Yeah.
money, and then Greg Gary might be after you for the rest of your life, and you have nothing to show for it. It's better to just make the deal, take the money, go off, do something else, get away from Greg Gary,
Yeah.
and try to do something with that. Nothing is going to bring Tanya back. Now,
Yeah.
as someone who really liked the Tanya characters, lots of us out there, seeing Greg Gary at the end having his drink, giving us a wink, I'm like, this is not the justice that I was hoping for. I mean, I'm glad Belinda got
Yeah.
hers, but there's still no real justice for Tanya.
Okay, tinfoil hat time.
Okay.
There is a big part of me that does want to just be done with Greg Gary moving forward, and that we don't see
Yes.
this character again. But I keep going back into my head, and I'm just sort of thinking, okay, Portia is still out there, and I know she wasn't super wealthy herself, but we had everything with Albie and like some of that sort of will they or won't they at the end of season 2. Like, there's still a universe to me where she could come back into play at some point down the road. Like, is it going to happen for sure? Maybe not, probably not. Tanya didn't always treat her that well, so there's a
No.
possibility that she just moved on with her life. But I think the potential is there if they do want to explore something again. Now, I will say, there's somebody else I would much rather see than Portia come back for a White
Mm-hmm.
Lotus season after this
Mm-hmm.
finale. We'll get into that at some point in this video, but I don't think we see Belinda again. I think we had sort of the full circle where, kind of like you were saying, she is now in a place that other people like Tanya have been with her. And I think that was the whole point that Mike wanted to get across.
Speaking of people we are not going to see again,
Oh, no.
Rick
Oh,
and
no, no,
Chelsea.
no.
Guys, this was so heartbreaking. We have been on here all season
Yeah.
being like, is it going to be Chelsea? No, it's going to be Rick. How about both? Oh my goodness. They were really like building this up that it was really going to be Chelsea. There was all these sort of brushes with death that kept happening over and over and over again. And we end up losing her, but we also ended up losing Rick.
It's so silly. I never imagined that we would lose both. It was just
No.
such a binary thing in my head. I was like, okay, it has to be this person or that person. It's like that old 90s commercial where I don't even remember who it was, but people keep asking him these questions. He's like, both. And this is what Mike White, he decided this. He went full both in this situation. And I would have been disappointed creatively if it was just Chelsea, because there's been all this foreshadowing with Chelsea all season long, and it would have felt way too obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And for the entire 20 minutes of this episode, I'm just sitting here on the edge of my seat and being like, okay, somebody's gonna go. And we have Jim show back up at this hotel, and I think we were both wondering at the end of this last episode where we saw Rick visit Jim, that was just like, Rick's going to go back to this hotel and Jim still owns this hotel. So what's going to happen here?
Yeah, I mean, Jim's going to come back. I'm not surprised. He's like, you're back. You're sleeping in my beds. You're eating my food.
Yeah.
Like, you show up at my house. You lie to my wife. You stick a gun in my face. You push me over in my chair.
Yeah.
Get off my resort. Like, I am not surprised that we saw Jim again. I'm not surprised that it went down like that. I was wondering if he was going to be like, I'm your father kind of thing, and we're going to have it come out that way, but it didn't. It came out another way. But it was interesting to hear where he was kind of like, yeah, your mom lied to you about this great guy that your dad was, and all this nonsense that she told you about your father. Your father was not a good man. And so then for him to say that, and then of course it's him who is not a good man, I was like, okay.
This whole sequence of events is really fascinating to me, because it's like a domino rally where you push one domino and all the other ones fall in succession, and you remove one domino from that equation. I don't think we get to this ending where I think the reason why Jim was not just, oh, you're leaving right now, was that, Rick said, okay, I'm leaving very, very soon. The boat's on the way. And I think he was just like, in that moment, like, okay, it's not really worth the trouble. But what I am going to do, because he lied to me, I'm upset. So I'm going to use my machismo in this moment to just needle him a little bit and bring up this subject that was really painful for him. But I'm not going to tell him everything. If Jim doesn't do that, I don't think anything else happens the rest of the finale. Or if Jim just does say, I am your father in that moment, I mean, who's to say for sure what's going to happen? But there's a chance things don't play out this way then either.
I mean, Jim does seem like he's not a great guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way that he spoke to him, he didn't even tell him that
Yeah.
he was his father. He came in, was, obviously upset at what Rick did, but then it's kind of like, yeah, and by the way, your father is not a great guy. Your father is trash, like that kind of thing. He knows that he's needling him.
Yeah.
He's not a great guy.
No.
So it kind of played out the way that it needed to. For me, hard hat.
Yeah.
I did not need to hear later, after Rick has gone and is like, he's trying to find Amrita. Hey, I really need help. Like, can you just see me right now? Could all of this sliding doors been avoided if Amrita had time for him? I actually think probably not. I think that he still would have been feeling this, because he was feeling peace when he came back.
Yeah.
But now all this other information is here, and the way that he was treated by this man. So I feel like he maybe could have gotten help if he got off the resort and went home and got some help. But I don't know if Amrita was really going to be able to get him past this or not. You guys let me know in the comments. But after he shoots Jim and he's, told, oh, this is your father, I was just like, I feel like that domino could have been taken out and everything else still would have been the same, because we saw Rick going on this spiritual journey where he is trying to find peace. And that shooting Jim was not going to bring him that peace. And you saw it on his face even before she said, "This is your father." No peace was had.
No, I agree with that fully. This is honestly the one part of the finale that I just really did not like. Like, there's other things I kind of question a little bit here or there, but I can explain them away in my head a little bit easier. It's just that this wasn't needed. I was really intrigued by the idea that what Jim said to Rick earlier, where it was just sort of like, your mother lied to you. I'm
Yes.
paraphrasing, and just being like, your father was not a good person, because that was once again just this weird thing that I was surprised I never thought about through this process. Just this idea that, like, we all thought that this was a situation where either Rick's mother told him the truth fully, or that Rick's mother lied and that this was his father. But in reality, the idea that, oh, she lied, but this was still not his father, like, that was just such an obvious thing that I never considered it. And I thought that was really, really interesting. And they could have just gone that way and the whole story would have been fine. But it's still a little too coincidental the way it played out. It wasn't needed. It didn't bring me anything, because I think we've all been talking about, could Jim be Rick's father all season? There was no big shock factor that came from it. It was just sort of like, all right, I'm fine, to use a water metaphor, since we saw plenty of it over the course of this episode. I'm fine swimming in the ambiguous waters of,
Yes.
Would Amrita would have talked him down? Like, is something like that possible? Because we can play with the what ifs of that. That's really interesting. This is not a what if. This doesn't change, like you said, any of the dominoes.
No, I feel like Mike White set up just beautifully that confrontation without any of this, "Oh, he was actually your father." There was enough that Jim had pulled at to be like, "Oh, your mother was a liar. Your father was this terrible person." Like, he opened up like 5 Pandora's boxes and then was like, "And get off my resort." So I just don't think that Amrita was going to be able to talk him down after all the stuff that Jim had said. And for me, I didn't need it. And I do think that part of it is because we all suspected that Jim was his father. And so by the time we got to it, I was kind of like, okay, like, we all knew this was coming anyways. If they had just left it kind of ambiguous, I would have been fine with that. I think that Rick still would have had the same feelings about it, where he was really not at peace. He's lost the woman that he loves. They're talking about being together forever. She's dead in his arms. Like, I think all of that was enough to bring him to where he needed to be.
I'm still upset about losing Chelsea, by the way. I know that she was probably just too pure for the world of the White Lotus. There's not a lot of legitimately nice people, and she was one of the nicest people we have ever come across. She had unconditional love for this man. She was so happy when they were at dinner together. The look on her face, it looked like she was about to cry at like 8 different points.
I completely understand. Yeah. This is probably like the first time he's really been like, "Yeah, we're it, man. You and me. We're going out of this world together. We are here till the end." And I mean, he's basically like, "We are life partners. We are going to be together." It's something it seems like she never heard.
Okay, well, since we've already talked about this big shooting that's been hyped up this whole season, we have to now rope in everyone's favorite character, Guy Talk, at the very end of this. I don't know if he's anybody's favorite character, but you know what?
I like Guy Talk.
I still like Guy Talk. I still want to root for Guy Talk, and he had a very roundabout way to... He actually did take Rick out. It wasn't a great shot. So I'm glad that they sort of paid this off, because he barely hit him on the shoulder, and it was like, okay, he wasn't that far away. It's realistic that he could have pulled that off.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real journey with Guy Talk here, where he really wanted to do the right thing and turn in Valentin, but he was like, "Please don't, like, this will happen to me and this will happen to my friends, and, we're going to have nothing, and we're not going to be able to, this is the only way we're able to really survive." And he decides that he's not going to. And there's a lot about Guy Talk where he doesn't want to be this guy who's,
No.
out here killing people or having to be the bodyguard or have this type of job where he's got to do bad things to bad people. And he even at one point tries to quit. And
Yeah.
it's, his superior's like, think about it.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a really great worker and we really like you. So just take a minute. But after this, now all of a sudden he's the bodyguard, he's got the girl, everything about him has changed, but has it?
It's a good question. I don't think it has. I think there's an interesting story with Guy Talk where, he's certainly not like Lucky in a lot of ways, because Lucky did some really terrible stuff. But I think one thing that Lucky said is that he's trying to always please a lot of other people. And there is an element
Yep.
to that with Guy Talk, where he's constantly trying to please Mook, where she keeps wanting him to be really ambitious. And I think he sticks with this job and hypes himself up as a bodyguard because he wants to please her. Even with
Mhm.
taking out Rick, he does it because Shrito is just in the background yelling at him to do it over and over again. And this is his boss. And I think he's just like, this is not who I am, but I don't have any other choice. I have to please this person who could ruin my life, who could fire me if I don't go ahead and go through with this. So it is a situation where he has pleased these other people. I think Mook is going to be with him now for some time. But is he actually happy? I just don't think so on the inside. I don't think this is who he is. And it's not who he wants to be.
Okay, tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
We will find out next season because I feel like Guy Talk we will see again. I don't know why. I feel it because we didn't really get a chance to see how he is feeling about it. Like, even when he was driving away and,
Yeah.
he's got her in the back of the car, he's got his sunglasses on, he's the bodyguard now. And it just felt like we don't really know how he is actually dealing with this because this isn't who he is. And now he's seemingly like head bodyguard, driver, protector,
Yeah.
everything he doesn't want to be. So how is he dealing with it? I hope we get an update.
Yeah, I think he is a really, really good character.
Yes.
And, learning about that actor who's had like a bunch of odd jobs, including a bodyguard, and like he's a really, really great story. I would love to see him again. But since we're on the subject of characters we do want to see again, I will say, and you could have knocked me over if I said this at the start of the season, I want more Saxon. I want more Patrick Schwarzenegger. I think he was phenomenal in this episode. Even the scene with him and Chelsea when Rick shows up, just his face. He did more with his face than I think I've seen other actors do with dialogue all season. Like, he was incredible. And his journey is so interesting and meaningful. Like, I would actually like to see him back on another season where maybe he has like started some Buddhist app that he has, I can't say Buddhist normally anymore, where he has just like found a way to really embrace this spirituality and he has grown, but he's still like wrestling with himself. Like, I love this character.
I absolutely loved that moment down at the beach with Chelsea, seeing Chelsea running into Rick's arms. He said everything was saying nothing.
Yeah.
Looking at them and seeing like what real, true love, soulmates, what it means to have a soul and to share that soul with another person who is also sharing their soul with you. You could see it on his face where he's like, is this something that I'm capable of? Could I ever have someone look at me the way that Chelsea looks at Rick or that Rick looks at Chelsea? Is that something that could be for me? And the minute that he turns to Chloe, he's like, sorry about the other night. She's like, you're replaceable. Pick anybody. You could be anybody. You don't actually matter. To have those two ends of the scale here of like pure love and someone who thinks you are just nothing. You are soulless, replaceable nothingness. Is this something that could change once Saxon gets back into his real life? Yes, I think it can, especially with everything that's happening with Tim, happening with the business. Their whole family is going to change. That might be the door that opens for him to actually be like, okay, I don't have this job to fall back on. This was the thing.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, I have nothing if I don't have this job. That now that that has been taken, now he can take a minute to really look at himself and be like, okay, well then who am I and what do I want?
it's just so well written that the character who I thought was superficially the most unlikable person at the start
He
of this
was
season, he is
unlikable.
now, in my opinion, maybe the most likable person coming out of this season, where I'm like, yeah, you were a jerk, and yeah, you were a total bro, but I feel like you legitimately did learn something. And I know this
Yes,
show is cynical, but I felt like we really got it in the writing that he was actually going to try to commit to some of this. He almost read that full book, like
in a night.
yeah, in a really short amount of time. Like I think he's going to get back. Yeah, he might fall into some old habits here or there because nobody's perfect. You get around your
Of course.
friends, they're bad influences or whatever.
Yes.
But I actually think he's going to take something of this and really make something of himself. And obviously, he hasn't learned everything about his father yet. He just got the phone back, but that's all going to unravel really, really fast.
I think having the job taken away is the thing that's going to actually be the catalyst for the real change. I think it was introduced to him with Chelsea. He was able to see that love and soulmates and what that can actually look like in life, and that there is more to life than money or having this job, that if you can have that, you can have everything, sort of thing. And I think that once that job is taken and he doesn't have that to fall back on, I think that we can assume that he would grow.
Yeah, and I think out of everybody in the Ratliff family now, moving forward, I feel the best about his chances. Like, I'm
Yes.
disappointed in Piper, but at the
Yes.
same time, am I surprised with Piper? Not really. Like I said a little earlier, this felt a little bit obvious that she's never been in this environment before. I did wonder briefly, at the very least, if she was just like relenting on all of this because it was a situation where it was just like, okay, now that Lucky wants it, I don't want it, so I'm gonna say all this stuff that I'm just like, oh, I don't like the food and all this, and I don't really mean it, but I think she actually did mean it.
I was disappointed that this is where they went with this. I actually felt like she was going to go through with this, that even though she was a little bit uncomfortable with the food and the sleeping situation, that it really was okay. Now my brother's going to be here, so now I can't actually like focus on it or get deep with it, that it wasn't going to end up being as superficial as, well, I like having air conditioner. Okay, well, we all like
Well,
having air
yeah, yeah,
conditioning,
no
but
kidding.
like, I miss this. I want this. Like, I just don't think that I've grown up with such luxury that for me to just go to the other extreme where I have no luxury. I'm not even going from luxury to like upper middle class or middle class. I'm just going straight to nothing, that she wasn't able to handle it. And I think maybe if she had made more steps to kind of pare down, pare down, pare down, she would have been fine. But she's gone from the lap of luxury to nothing, and it is a hard drop.
It's time to talk Blendergate because this is another question for everyone out there, and I'll give my answer too. It's just like, did you guys really think that Timothy Ratliff was about to kill his whole family? Because I 100% did. At first,
I did.
I was waiting for the fake out, like I really was. But the moment that they actually did start to sip it, I was sitting here being like, "Woo, it's going down!" Like this is actually, I really thought this was going to happen.
I absolutely thought it was going to happen. But the minute that he slapped everybody's
Yeah.
drinks out of their face, I was like, okay, it's going to be just Locke. That's what it felt like.
Yes.
That they had set it up, that it was very obvious where the steps were going, that Locke was going to end up making a drink, drinking the drink, which is what happened. He goes out, he's poisoned himself, and then he dies. And I was like, this, even though it felt like this is where it was going, when they actually killed him, I was like, this was a big swing. And I think that this is something that was going to really change Tim's life, change the whole family,
Yeah.
where it's not just like, oh, I've lost the job and we've lost the money and whatever, that this would be something that's really core shaking for their entire
Yeah.
family, where there could be real change besides, oh, we're not rich anymore, that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
I
So when they brought him back to life, I was just like, I wish I had my hard hat on for that, because I actually didn't like it. It felt like they pulled a punch and they could have just given the punch and it was going to land.
they had just spent so much time on him, quote unquote, dying already in this finale that it just felt like, okay, well, why did we spend all this time on this now if he's actually still alive?
And then it's like, he's not just being poisoned, and now he thinks he's drowning. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what is happening here?
It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot that I don't think we really needed. I do agree with you. I think it would have been better if we just did lose Locke in that situation. It's something Tim had to deal with. Everybody had to deal with that in its own way. And then that could have been really big and really powerful.
There was no real consequences, as there is in life with rich people.
Yeah.
That Tim tried to poison his whole family, that he actually served them all poison.
Yeah.
He poisoned his son.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be okay. I was just like, wow, okay. Yeah. I'm glad that at least he felt bad about it, but I was like, how is this just okay?
You just got really lucky that apparently there wasn't enough like seed residue, I guess, in the blender at that point that it didn't end up taking his son out. I will say my one last round of applause to Parker Posey. The line about, we still have wine, like I love, this is the greatest Parker Posey performance of all time.
I'm agree.
Saying it right. It's going to be a real race for the Emmys among the people on this show, especially the women, because they were she was iconic. I don't think, I did joke about wanting to bring her back for another season, but I don't really think you can. I don't think
they're broke now.
Yeah, they're broke now. There's no more meat on the bone with that character.
No, there isn't. Okay, let's talk about the trio of women.
Yeah.
Because this friendship storyline has taken me on a journey that I've really enjoyed, because they did touch on this sort of friendship and what happens when friendships over time, you're friends for decades, that they start to go in different directions, and nothing specific has happened that's breaking up your friendship, but you're just on different paths and things are not connecting anymore the way that they used to. And you still like that person, but hanging out and having a relationship, it's just not the same anymore. And you're having that last hurrah girls trip to try to see if there's anything left. I did not expect that ending with Lori, where she was just like, you know what? Mm-hmm. I really care about this friendship. Yeah, we're all on different paths and things are very different, but these friendships really mean something to me. And that's what I've gotten out of this trip, where I've actually grieved, and said goodbye to my job and my marriage and all these other things. But the thing that's been constant is my friendships. I was like, oh, wow. Oh my, take me on this ride.
This is what we're going to have. This is sort of like an ultimate Street Fighter showdown between two professionals, where one person is Carrie and the other person is Parker. And there can be only, because Carrie's monologue in that dinner scene, I think what it meant, I think it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I think a lot of it is what you're saying, just sort of the idea that this friendship is a constant that I have in a life that is constantly changing and evolving, where all these other things have disappointed me. But I also think what was interesting to me, at least what I kind of took away from it, is that she went into this week with a lot of these like preconceived notions of what this friendship was. And she just kind of got to this interesting point of acceptance with all of it, where it's just like, yeah, we all do talk smack behind each other's backs, and I don't like certain things about you, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna be upfront and honest and really be emotional and lay everything on the line, because that's the thing that we have not done all week. We have been completely and utterly fake, and she actually found a way through to the core of what's really important to her, which is honesty with people who are still going to be there for her, really, despite these bizarre circumstances, no matter what's happened throughout the week. Like, they never actually left. They still invited Lori to breakfast the next morning.
Yeah, I really liked seeing Jacqueline come up and invite her to breakfast and just be like, listen, like, I really care about our friendship, and it's above all else. Like, I really want to fix this, and I really want to fix our friendship. So when you're ready, I'm ready, sort of thing. And that's what was so nice about it, because it feels like something that doesn't play out a lot in life, where a lot of us, like I said, are on those different paths with those friends you've had for decades. And those relationships do just go on different paths, and you're not friends, but you're not really putting the work in to keep it together. That's the thing about decades long friendships. It's like a marriage, right? Like you have to put the work in to keep that going. It's not going to just keep going on its own, because people do change and they do evolve, and you have to put the work in to make a relationship stay, whether it's a relationship,
Yeah.
friendship, whatever it is.
Yeah, this to me is the storyline that stuck the landing the most in the
Yes.
finale. I think there a lot of them had really, really good endings, despite some polarizing opinions in my brain about them. But this is number one to me. I think Belinda and Greg is number two, just because it inspires so much good conversation, and I can understand where she's coming from. And I think there's just so much good, meaty stuff that we're meant to leave this finale with complicated emotions. But before we do say goodbye to season 3 altogether, Sam Rockwell, let's just have a brief conversation here about how did Mike White go to Academy Award winner Sam Rockwell and tell him, okay,
And take his pants from him.
yeah, take his pants and then be like, I want you to run out of this room after punching, I don't know, this pillow or whatever. And then I want you to do a James Bond roll on the ground.
It was so funny. I died when he barrel rolled down the hallway of the hotel.
I just don't, you probably filmed all of this with Sam Rockwell, because I know he was doing a movie at the same time in like 2 weeks. But you convinced Sam Rockwell. Was this Sam Rockwell's idea? Sam Rockwell, I know you're watching this video. Right. Let us know. I wanted to be in my undies, and I wanted to barrel roll in the hallway.
Who doesn't want to barrel roll down the hallway?
I wish I could barrel roll. I would have rolled into the wall, and I would have had a concussion, just like Adam Scott apparently got one in the Severance finale because he tilted his head the wrong way. I just really thought that this finale brought so much. I'm going to miss the White Lotus so much. Like, I could sit here and speculate about various locations in season 4 and all that, but I would just be preaching to a choir of other people who love fancy locations. I'm just excited to see whatever Mike does. I'm assuming it's going to be a long wait just because that's TV now, but I really wish it wasn't.
It's going to be a long wait, but like Matt said, we have a lot of other stuff coming up here. You already have HBO, The Last of Us, which is also 10 out of 10 this show. Give it a look. Watch with us. We're going to be here each week talking about that. The Handmaid's Tale is starting up this week. We're going to be covering that as well. And like I said, if you're looking for something that's kind of like White Lotus, Nine Perfect Strangers is kind of in that same feel, and that's coming up in May, and we're going to be covering that here as well. Dexter this summer, the new Alien show this summer. So much good TV that's coming up.
Yeah, we have been really, really blessed with great TV so far this year, and I'm really grateful it's still going. I'm grateful to all of you who have subscribed and stick with us for all those shows just mentioned. And if you guys do want to support us further, be sure to join our Patreon. We have a link in the description there. Like Jess said, we're covering The Pit on Max. That's wrapping up really soon. This is a phenomenal show. We've had a great time covering it this season. We're also covering Bosch Legacy. Thank you so much. Thank you to our patrons. We'll see you here next time.